The gentleman from Texas.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much. Mr. Speaker, at this time I'd like to yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentleman from Iowa, Mr. King.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the gentleman from Texas for yielding. And I would first say, as a gentleman from Georgia stated, all Americans deserve health care. All Americans have health care, every single one. And 85% of us are insured. And 85% of us are happy with the policy that we have. And the President has made two arguments. One of them is that health care in America costs too much money. What's your solution? Spend another $1.5 trillion. Too much money? Throw another $1.5 trillion at it. That's upside down. What is the simplest part of logic that you don't understand? Second thing, too many people in America uninsured, 47 million. Well, subtract from that 47 million illegal aliens, which will be funded under this bill. Immigrants, those that qualify for Medicaid and other government programs, employer programs, and they make over $75,000 a year. Now you're down to really only 12.1 million Americans who are without affordable options, and that's less than 4% of America. And for that, you would throw out the liberty of America. Throw out the baby with the bathwater of the best health insurance industry in the world, the best health care delivery system in the world, destroyed by a desire to create a dependency society to steal our freedom. I yield back.
Time of the gentleman has expired. Gentleman from Texas seeks recognition.
I do, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to yield to the gentleman from Texas for a unanimous consent request.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized for a unanimous consent request.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks and submit my statement to the record on this job-killing bill that cuts Medicare, piles debt on our children, and raises health care costs and raises taxes on the American people.
The time of the gentleman has expired, and the chair will charge the distinguished gentleman from Texas with the time. Gentleman from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Rules Committee did a great job. Held a 12-hour meeting yesterday. I would like to say to the American people that everybody understands what's in this bill. They have a chance. No unintended consequences with this. Republicans have laid out what we believe will happen. Mr. Speaker, lots of groups around the country also know what would happen, and I'd like to ask unanimous consent to insert into the record the list of people who would say vote no on this bill. They are business organizations all across this country. Mr. Speaker, we understand $732.5 billion worth of tax increases. Once again, let's get this right. No unintended consequences here. This is a job killer. I'd like to ask unanimous consent put into the record a list of the tax increases that are proposed in this bill.
So ordered.
Mr. Speaker, also last night the Rules Committee we found out, which is very devastating and I believe unwise. The Senate does not have this provision. They removed it. But the House keeps in this bill, excuse me, failure to comply with individual mandates in this bill could lead to a $250,000 fine and 5 years in jail, criminal penalties that are a felony if you willingly choose not to participate, if you willingly choose then not to pay the fine in your taxes. And Mr. Speaker, what we're going to do is criminalize Americans who choose not to join in this government-run health care system. There are not unintended consequences. The members need to know that this is going to raise premiums, it is going to raise taxes, and perhaps worst of all, we're going to criminalize with felony penalties noncompliance. Mr. Speaker, this is not a way to run a bill. Mr. Speaker, at this time I'd like to yield for the close for the Republican Party, the distinguished gentleman, the ranking member of the Rules Committee, the gentleman from San Dimas, California, Mr. Dreyer.
Gentleman from California is recognized. Without objection, so ordered.
Speaker, I thank my friend for yielding. The American people have spoken very loudly and clearly. They do not want the federal government to control 1/6 of our nation's economy, and they believe that we should be able to scrutinize legislation. We have over 2,000 pages here. Many of the changes were made late last night, Mr. Speaker, and we've not had what the American people said we needed to have following the debate on the cap-and-trade bill when we had a 300-page amendment dropped on us at 3 o'clock in the morning, and that is an adequate amount of time to look at this legislation. My friend from Dallas has talked about unintended consequences. Obviously, in those 2,000 pages, there are things that none of us want to have happen that we don't know about now, but we've had reported here on the floor a wide range of things that we believe will happen. Now, Mr. Speaker, it's very unfortunate that the debate on health care reform has been cast on those who are in favor of reform and those who are opposed to reform. We've continued to hear that over and over and over again, unfortunately. There is no member of this House, Democrat or Republican, who does not want to ensure access to quality health insurance and quality health care for our seniors, for our veterans, for our families, for individuals across this country. So let's make it very clear, we all want that to happen. We all want to do what we can, Mr. Speaker, to increase accessibility. We all want to increase accessibility. How do we do that? Well, I believe very fervently that increasing affordability will increase accessibility. If we can make health insurance more affordable, more people in this country will have access to quality health insurance. The substitute that we have offered does just that. It says that the opportunity to have access to the best quality product at the lowest possible price is a right that every American should have. They are denied that today by virtue of the fact that they can't buy insurance across state lines. If you look at our goal of trying to bring about meaningful liability reform, doctors today engage in, as we all know, defensive medicine. They recommend a wide range of tests simply because of their fear of being sued. In my state of California, we have a very, very viable package that deals with that. If we were to take the California model and apply it here at the federal level, the Congressional Budget Office has estimated that we will save $54 billion. $54 billion could be saved. And I believe that we need to do everything that we can to allow small businesses to come together so that they can, in fact, as large entities do, get lower insurance rates. And, Mr. Speaker, I believe that we can also ensure that we address the challenge of pre-existing conditions so that Americans with those pre-existing conditions are not denied access to quality health insurance and health care. We can do that, and that's exactly what our substitute does. And unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, we have continued to have this characterization that if we don't support this measure, which takes control of 1/6 of our nation's economy, we are not committed to reform. That is outrageous. We believe that a step-by-step approach is the proper route for us to take. I liked very much when our friend from North Carolina earlier said, we don't need a complete overhaul, we need to fine-tune this system to ensure that every single American does have access to quality, affordable health care. Vote no on this rule. We can do better.
Time of the gentleman has expired.